Today we are going to analyze a meme which went viral on Twitter, and it's presenting what I believe to be the strongest argument on why people shouldn't dislike the casting choice in The Little Mermaid. Now, my personal opinion is that people have a right to dislike a movie for whatever reason. I don't think they have to explain it. Similarly as how people can like a movie for whatever reason, and they don't have to explain it, especially when a trillion-dollar corporation requests money and time from you. I mean, I find it absolutely ridiculous that you would have to pay money for a company in order to suggest that you are a good and virtuous person. At the end of the day, Disney is not the new Catholic Church, as far as I'm aware. So the concept that people would have to spend money to see little Ariel to prove that they're not racist is absolutely ridiculous, even though in American culture that seems to be where the trend is going. Like, you need to pay money and see movies and say nothing negative about them, because otherwise you're a bad person. So criticizing a person for not liking a movie is exactly like criticizing a person for not liking food. It's like suggesting that if someone doesn't like Indian food, then he is racist. Which, by the way, that actually happened back in 2016. There were certain articles where chefs said in various interviews that they may not like Indian food or they may not like Asian food. And because of that, of course, a journalist called them racist. So it is absolutely ridiculous. But this seems to be the modern culture of insanity that American intelligentsia is trying to adopt. So let's examine the argument. This whole argument is based on the premise that if something existed into the past, that it should also exist into the present. And it's a complete hogwash concept. I mean, imagine this. You order Uber Eats, and when the food arrives, it's cold. Now, for whatever reason, you don't complain. You still give a 5-star to the person, and maybe even give him a tip. Does that mean that from that day forward, it's acceptable that every single time your food is delivered, it should be cold? And you should also give a 5-star and a tip? There could be a plethora of reasons as why you gave 5 stars and a tip the first time. It may be because you were incredibly hungry. It may be because you were a little bit more understanding that day, because the traffic was difficult. But you didn't do that to set a precedent. You didn't do that thinking that, okay, so from now on, every time I'm going to get bad service, I'm also going to take it and I'm going to give it a tip. But the way modern America works is that if you gave 5-star to the first guy who brought you cold food, and he happens to be white, and the second person who gives you cold food, you give 1 star and it happens to be a woman, clearly you're a sexist. If the person happens to be a young person, will they say, oh, well, clearly you're ageist? Or if the person happens to be black, oh, well, clearly you're racist, right? Like, they don't want to analyze any other variable or any other data points as to why that happened. They will automatically assume that the only reason you're doing this is because of isms and phobias and whatever bullshit the academia comes up with. But let's go back to this meme and we can discuss what has happened. So first of all, I would like to point out that all of these movies, literally every single one, had controversy regarding the casting. Just because the mainstream media didn't focus on it doesn't mean it didn't exist. In fact, this particular one right here we're going to go into, this had massive coverage, and it was the left-leaning people on Twitter that were absolutely fuming over this casting. So let's look at the first. The first one shows the Lone Ranger movie, I believe it's called, and it has Johnny Depp playing the role of a Native American. Now, there was controversy surrounding this, but I also understand the casting decision. They went with a new IP and wanted to bring an actor who would put butts in seats. The only reason you have this is because the brand of Johnny Depp was capable of attracting people to the movie. And by the way, this failed. The movie wasn't popular. It wasn't a good choice. And I can understand why Native Americans would be upset by this particular decision. I wouldn't go to a Native American who doesn't want to see the movie because of the casting choice and call him racist. Still, I do understand. Like, if they were to cast Morgan Freeman in a brand new IP, and let's say Morgan Freeman would play the role of a white guy, I would understand why they would do it. It's because, okay, so you don't have faith in the IP, and you want to use the name of Morgan Freeman, a very famous actor, in order to attract more people to see the movie. I would still have question marks about it, because that's not the way things should work. You should have faith in the story that you created, and it should be carried regardless if it's a famous actor or not. Like, for example, Game of Thrones season 1 was carried with completely new actors because it had a good story. If your idea is like, oh, we're going to cast this very famous person to carry the movie, then, well, you probably have a very bad story that you don't have faith in. And if you, as the movie maker, doesn't have faith in that story, then why should I? The second one has to do with the movie Batman, where the villain is supposed to be an Arab and they casted a white guy to do it. Now, this may be newsflash for Twitter, but from my knowledge, Bashar al-Assad from Syria is white. I mean, look, I don't have a 23andMe kit here like, I'm not as expert as the Nazis on Twitter, okay? Like, I don't know the heritage and the pedigree, but the thing is, like, selling it to the audience. Like, can you sell to the audience that this particular individual might be from the Middle East? The answer seems to be a resounding yes. And of course, there were controversies at the time about this, but historically speaking, this isn't as shocking as you may think. And again, you look at the Middle East today, especially when you look at places like Iran, Syria, there's plenty of people that have this skin pigmentation. It's not as immersion breaking as other casting choices. This, however, regarding the casting choice of the movie Doctor Strange, I would have also preferred if they kept to the original cast. However, the reason they did it was because of China. They wanted to sell the movie in China, and casting a Tibetan master would have been very problematic with the Chinese Communist Party. So this is something that I like to call woke hypocrisy. The director approved of the casting choice, the media was in an uproar, and then the director apologized for woke washing, okay? But he didn't give the money back. Like, he monetized woke washing, he made a lot of money and wealth, but he didn't get it back, you know? He just because that's what it means to be progressive in America, right? That's what it means to be a person with an elevated sense of conscience. It means to speak the speech. As long as you flap your mouth and the correct thing say, your actions don't have to be the same as your speech. So you can monetize whitewashing, but as long as you apologize. Then you have the controversy regarding the Scarlet Witch, and yes, she is Romani in the origins in the comic, but she appeared white on the show. I can attest, as living in Romania, that I can pick up my phone right now, and I can call on some of my friends, which are of Romani ethnicity, and we can put them on a line and see if people from the Twitter can correctly identify the heritage and the genetics and the upbringing of the people. And I can guarantee to you that they will fail. So again, it's all what you can sell to the audience. This is why people aren't upset when Kratos from the video game God of War is voice acted by a black person, or when Darth Vader is voice acted by a black actor, because it's not immersion breaking. It's not about the heritage and the pedigree. An actor should be able to act something he is not. That is the whole purpose of the career. But he should look the part. If you look the part, then it's fine. If you can still maintain the immersion, it's fine. This is why people are upset about the current thing. Now, you can disagree with why they're upset, and you can say, oh, they shouldn't be, but this is not an argument. Because number one, there were people upset about all of these changes, and number two, it's not similar. It's not similar at all. Something similar would be if they casted Arnold Schwarzenegger as Shaka Zulu, or if they casted a white actor as Blade. That would be similar. That's not what we're talking about. And also, it's the corporate marketing that at this point many people have had enough. Like, this whole idea of insulting people in the hopes that they go see their movie is getting very tiresome. I don't like businesses insulting customers. I don't go to the grocery store so I can be insulted by the grocery lady. Imagine if there's like 5 grocery stores on your street, but there's one owned by a Romanian woman who constantly assaults people on the street. If you don't come to my store, it means you don't support Romanians. It means that you're anti-Romanian. Like, can you imagine that? Because that's what Hollywood is doing right now. Let me know what you guys think, though, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.